It started, as most horrifying things do, with a YouTube video. An upload of Matt Brewstein of the Fun Explained channel, known for his travelogues across the globe, discovering and documenting bizarre discoveries. Matt was deep in the forests of a country that we're not at liberty to disclose, searching for a cryptid that locals claim to have seen wandering through the trees at night. But instead of a phony baloney local legend, he stumbled upon something real, and something that might just hold the key to saving humanity. Or if its call isn't heeded, ending it. The livestream was flagged by a Foundation web crawler and immediately sent to the live media team at Site 11. They were treated to a stream of Matt in his hiking gear, standing in the woods and lifting up the handset of what looked like an old black rotary phone. Immediately, the caseworker watching the video was intrigued. "Bro, you guys are not gonna believe this," Matt said, holding up the handset speaker and moving it closer to the receiver on his own, currently recording iPhone. "I legit just found this phone right here in the woods. I expected it to just be trash somebody threw out, but no, it's literally plugged into the ground. Listen to this." The caseworker could hear a voice coming through the phone, a female monotone, speaking random words with relatively even intervals between them. Strange. Very, very strange. Matt held the handset back and centered himself in the video again. "This is freaking insane, you guys. Some number station type stuff we got here. You gotta like and subscribe if you want to know more about this crazy mystery. We also recommend you subscribe to SCP Explained to get bespoke animated videos based on the strangest entries of the SCP Foundation right here on your YouTube feed." Sorry, that just felt like the most organic time for me to bring that up. "I'm definitely coming back here, guys," Matt continued, "and I'm gonna bring in the whole Fun Explained team to investigate this one." "Yeah," the caseworker thought as he flagged the video and called in a mobile task force to investigate and silence the involved parties. "That's not happening." After applying some amnestics, deleting the VOD of the stream, and having Matt make a public apology for faking the paranormal in his latest video, the actual investigation began. Agents, professional cryptographers, and even one or two technomancers were sent in to take a closer look at the phone, now designated SCP-270, the Secluded telephone, and see what kind of secrets it was keeping from them. At the time, nobody had any idea just how consequential the discovery of this little phone would end up being to all of their lives, and to the fate of humanity. It was a relatively small contingent of agents studying the phone at first. Matt was indeed telling the truth that the wire coming out of the phone was embedded into the forest floor, and no matter how deep they seemed to dig, the wire kept tracing down, down, down into the earth. However, on the level of pure construction, there wasn't anything actually all that strange about the device. Sure, it almost constantly received strange calls from a single source, but when the phone was taken apart, there wasn't anything in its construction that suggested anything other than a non-anomalous, typical corded rotary phone. But if the phone itself was nothing special, the calls were extremely perplexing. Matt's own comparison to a number station, infamous Cold War radio stations that seemingly release code over the airwaves for deeply embedded agents, wasn't entirely off base. But the range of things coming in through the SCP-270 phone were actually much broader and stranger than that could have ever prepared them for. In its broadest sense, when the Foundation first discovered the phone, they heard a mildly distorted female voice speaking in a low, even tone. She would list off names with seemingly no context. She would speak in strange phrases like, "The crow caws only beneath the bloody moon when the wheat is ripe for harvest." She would read off sequences of seemingly random numbers, give quotations from sources ranging from popular movies to books to things as obscure as an instruction manual for a discontinued brand of Swedish electric whisk. Sometimes the phone would play these same quotes but mangled through audio editing into strange nonsense. Strings of strange letters with seemingly no discernible meaning, incomprehensible words, sometimes peculiar and unsettling noises not made by any known animal, languages not yet recorded in the SCP Foundation Hyperversal Language Catalog, peculiar free associating monologues, the full text of nursery rhymes and folktales from a wide range of human cultures, and some from distinctively non-human cultures, which has researchers at the Foundation to wonder if we're even dealing with a human on the other end of the line here. But this continuing stream of endless, almost maddening audio also features more than what you could contain within the limits of human speech, too. Instrumental melodies, metal scraping noises, some of which have been calibrated to sound almost like a grim industrial parody of classical music pieces, Morse code messages, pained human screaming, computer programming languages, pig Latin, condescending laughter, backwards music, and conversations that appear to have been recorded surreptitiously, ranging from high-intensity, top-secret political discussions to debates about grocery lists around family kitchen tables. And in amongst all this, what seems like periods of eerie silence. Of course, it would be easy to hear all of this and assume that what we're looking at here is almost like a radio station, personally programmed by someone with a severe head injury or a number of intense chemical dependencies. But if you're ready to write it off like that, I'm sorry to say that you probably wouldn't get very far at the SCP Foundation. Here, lateral thinking, an investigative mindset, and an ability to tolerate large degrees of trauma are the greatest personal assets. Foundation cryptographers knew that what they were looking at here was code, pure and simple. They just needed to establish a cipher that would let them see the signal amongst the noise. It took weeks to create any kind of comprehensible message out of the chaos that eternally spewed out of the earphone, but when they did, the small team gathered inside the SCP-270 observation tent froze in genuine fear. It was a message telling them about some critical flaw inside SCP-682's containment chamber, something that, any day now, the monstrous, hard-to-destroy reptile would easily exploit to breach containment and take untold lives in the process. Expectations were measured at first, until researchers and containment specialists at Site-19 checked and saw that the message about the critical containment flaw was absolutely correct. In a mad dash, they were able to correct the flaw and stop the breach before it even happened. Who knows how much money and how many lives were saved by decoding that one message? And with everything that had happened, with the constant deluge of audio leaving the phone, what would be the chances that the message had been a fluke? It wasn't long after this that they were able to decode another message, a set of coordinates and a warning to bring as many armored men as possible to the area. This was how the SCP Foundation first discovered SCP-082, a cannibalistic humanoid known as Ferdinand the Cannibal, and was able to capture him with relatively minimal loss of life. Not long after, another message was decoded, revealing a plan by the Chaos Insurgency to perform a raid on Site-75 and steal several anomalies. But with the advanced knowledge of exactly how the raid was going to occur, the Foundation was able to put preemptive defensive and counteroffensive measures into place, quickly neutralizing the raid before it could even begin. This was more than enough to convince the directors of the nearby Site-11 of exactly what needed to happen next. Researchers and a huge team were dispatched to create a large perimeter around SCP-270 and form Outpost Delta, a satellite base with over 100 members of personnel, both researchers and guards. Their job was to monitor and decode the audio spilling out of SCP-270 to find any possible messages that could reveal more information that was extremely useful to the Foundation. And wouldn't you know it, they often did. In a matter of months, the team at Outpost Delta uncovered a huge amount of coded information, a lot of which not only helped the SCP Foundation, but actually prevented a number of XK-class end-of-the-world scenarios. Clearly, Outpost Delta was worth any amount of funding or personnel that could possibly be diverted to the project. But for every vital piece of information, there were just as many peculiar duds as they came to be known around the outpost, and a few incidents that were nothing short of extremely disturbing for everyone involved. As for the duds, once a month-long process of intense decoding revealed not a valuable message, but instead 50 colorful synonyms for the human butt. In another instance, it revealed a secret recipe for Dr. Ransom's beloved cherry pie recipe, which had always been a hit at Site-11 company picnics. This actually proved to be one of the most stressful and challenging parts of working at Site-11. There was really no way of knowing whether the lead you were pursuing was going to be anything valuable, or a revelation that you'd spent months of your finite life exploring something of little to no consequence at all. As a result, decoders signed to the case have simply been instructed to follow the leads that seem most promising at any given time and ignore the rest, though this process is hardly scientific. A few years after the establishment of Outpost Delta, the woman on the other end of the line suddenly ditched her calm, disconnected demeanor. Instead, she appeared to suddenly be extremely distressed. She was loudly sobbing, crying so hard that she could hardly breathe, in a manner that felt upsetting to multiple members of Outpost staff, some of whom had seen colleagues die horrible deaths right before their eyes. The woman was repeating, "I can't. Don't make me. Please. I don't want to do this anymore. I just want it to end. Let it end. End me. End me. End me. End me. End me!" The audio abruptly cut out after that, playing what appeared to be a pre-recorded segment from an earlier broadcast before resuming normal transmission exactly 12 minutes later. Except this time, the voice on the other end of the phone was male and remained that way from this point onwards. Something about the change seemed to mark a turning point among all the researchers, as they became convinced that there was some deeper message to all of the different codes, something that they were missing. Every time a code turned out to be nothing caused a considerable drop in morale, and two separate discoveries made this even worse. The first was that the periods of silence in the broadcasts were not actually silence. Using advanced audio analysis hardware and software, they were able to discover that the silent periods were actually just audio played at a frequency alternatingly too low or high for human ears to properly hear them. This sparked a wave of panic and paranoia. Researchers began frantically revisiting silent segments in the year's worth of audio they'd already recorded and processed since the establishment of the outpost. Maybe there was some vital clue that they could have missed. The other event that threw the whole outpost into chaos came when a new researcher added onto the outpost staff revisited one of the dud segments. They actually found there was a secret message that allowed the SCP Foundation to stop another looming XK-class end-of-the-world scenario. This, naturally, also had everyone at the outpost panicked, requesting more resources and more staff to go back over all the previously recorded audio and search for any key codes that they may have missed, even in the apparent duds. It turned up the heat even more when the audio itself suddenly started to become a lot harder to decode. The encryption methods became more convoluted and extreme, taking each code longer to process, while more of the endless reel of data kept gushing in. Louder background noise was added to much of the flow, making even the intelligible words much harder to hear. Sometimes multiple voices would be heard at once, talking over each other. And in one incident there was, well, we can't tell you exactly what audio it played, but I can say that one member of the outpost was immediately put on mental health leave after. All of this seemed to be sending Outpost Delta to a boiling point, so much so that a message was appended to the file, requesting help directly from Level 5 members of Foundation staff as the situation spiraled out of control day by day. The message detailed just how dire things were getting. Paranoia and fear were running rampant at Outpost Delta. The level of pressure on each of the researchers to find meanings in the data, knowing that lives were almost always on the line, was pushing them close to the edge. The employees are regularly cycled in and out of the outpost and given Class A amnestics to forget their time there, reassigning them to low-stress positions and only bringing them back when they've had time to cool down. But that's not good enough anymore. The Foundation has found that even though the Class A amnestics can make researchers forget their time working with SCP-270, the increased sense of paranoia, fear, and general dread remains. And as more staff are cycled in and out, this condition seems to be a quiet epidemic, spreading across the entire SCP Foundation. All this leads us to perhaps our ultimate question. Was SCP-270 an advanced warning system sent here to help the SCP Foundation catch some of its greatest threats early? Or was SCP-270 itself the greatest threat, with an insidious plan to force the SCP Foundation to tear itself to pieces from sheer paranoia? Now check out A Day in the Life of SCP Mobile Task Force 049 Experiments and terrifying AI SCP and other tech SCPs that will make you turn your phone off for more.